In this video, I'm going to be talking about natural remedies for ADHD. Specifically, I'm going to be reviewing an article I found that cites 6 different of these claims and see where we land. You'll notice that we're on healthline.com. This is the parent company of psychcentral.com, which we looked at in the last video. So the claim here is that the Mayo Clinic notes that certain food colorings and preservatives may increase hyperactive behavior in some children. If you actually click on the Mayo Clinic link, you will find the exact opposite. So in the reality, it says, and this is a quote from the study, by the way, the FDA determined that studies to date have not proved that there's a link between food colorings and hyperactivity. So we can pretty much ignore this entire section right here. So, oh, and by the way, this was also medically reviewed. I don't know if it was. Number 2 is we avoid potential allergens. What they talk about in this article are things like preservative, chemical additives, milk, eggs, chocolate, food containing different things. If you click through the study that they cite, there's actually, and this is a quote, there's no significant differences in food allergies, asthma, asthma. There's only 2 allergens that they found that are different or more common in people with ADHD, and that's Johnson grass and allergic rhinitis, which is actually just suffering from hay fever. So I don't know where they're getting this chemical additives, preservatives stuff from. Maybe they have a different study, but I kind of doubt it. And it seems like they're just making stuff up here. So let's move on. Number 3 here completes the hat trick of bad information, which is they talk about this EEG biofeedback, and this is a type of neurotherapy that measures brain waves. And it suggested that you could train with this, and that's a promising treatment for ADHD. Now, they put 2 groups of people into this study. They had the placebo group, which is given the fake training, and then a real group, which is given the real training. And both groups reported that they improved their ADHD symptoms over time. So clearly, making the claim that this is a promising treatment when half of the people got the fake treatment and also claimed it worked doesn't seem like a very good study. So again, we're going to ignore that. On to number 4, and this is where it starts to get a little better. They talk about yoga and Tai Chi. The first article they cite here is a study in which only 9 children were taught how to do yoga properly. And these were young children. I think the oldest might have been 13. And they were basically taught how to do yoga. And they saw improvements in the 3 months following in their ADHD diagnostic scores. Yeah, that might be true, but it's really hard to conclude that with a group of 9 children, especially when the differences weren't really that significant. The second study they did was with Tai Chi with teenagers. And actually, this study had a little bit more people. I think it was around 20 teenagers. And they all did seem to have an improved score in their hyperactivity and inattentive and other types of symptoms. Now, again, not a very high number of people in the study. And the second thing I say is yoga and Tai Chi, that's just kind of like saying meditation and exercise are good for people with ADHD. So would I conclude that you should do Tai Chi or yoga? I mean, maybe those seem beneficial to people, and if you do them and you like them, you should probably do them. But to claim that they're some sort of natural healing or natural therapy to replace medication is a little bit flimsy. So let's keep going. So number 5, spending time outside. I think this is kind of an obvious one, but let's look at what they talk about. So in the studies they cite, the first one here talks about children taking walks outside. And they concluded that children with ADHD who take 20-minute walks outside perform better if they do these walks in nature, in a park, not around a city or buildings or traffic. And I think the evidence in that study is pretty compelling. And even just from myself, I've noticed that going for a walk outside with my dog in the park, around the trees, just feel better. The second thing they talk about is in the 2011 study with 421 children. Basically, it was a survey that asked their parents how much their kid plays outside and where do they usually play outside, and then how bad were their ADHD symptoms. And what they found was children who played outside who had hyperactivity succeeded a lot in open grass, which sounds like fields, maybe playing sports. In the second group, the children without hyperactivity but still with ADHD succeeded in open grass and the big trees and grass category. So it seems like go outside into either the open grass or into a forest, some sort of park. So go outside and play is beneficial in the long run for ADHD symptoms. And I do think that one of the conclusions of this study is that if your kid has hyperactivity, if they go tire themselves out in the park, they're going to have less hyperactivity. I mean, that seems pretty obvious, and that is a good point. So, go play outside. Okay, so number 6 is behavioral or parental therapy. Now, the one study or guidelines that they show here are the American Academy of Pediatrics. And this is a little bit of a flimsy one because if you actually click into the study, they say that the long-term positive effects of behavioral therapy have yet to be determined. So it's hard to say if this is really a good case to make here. And then they also have this table which shows you the intervention type and then the typical outcomes. So if you look at the typical outcome here, a lot of it is about, obeying parents, parents understanding the behaviors of their kid, high levels of parental satisfaction. So yeah, I guess if you positively reward your kid when they do the right thing and then punish them when they do the wrong thing, yeah, that could give you better outcomes with your child following directions. This is just such a flimsy, weird article. So I looked up another great article about what maybe you should do. So the article I looked up was about cognitive behavioral therapy, which is slightly different than what they're talking about in this article. And there was a group of adults who basically did CBT together for their own ADHD. And they found huge improvements on knowledge about ADHD, self-efficacy, so strategies for themselves, their self-esteem highly improved, and they all shared positive experiences about talking with other adults who also had ADHD. So it seems to me like there's clear evidence on one hand of having a common knowledge and sort of understanding your brain and going into some sort of support group for people who have ADHD, whereas maybe trying to do some sort of punishment and reward parental therapy, behavioral therapy seems a little bit more flimsy. Again, I'm not a pediatrician, and that's just one study, but that's my conclusion from this article. Now, you might be asking yourself the same question that Healthline is asking. What about supplements? I'm going to do a supplement video. That's too much content for one video, so we're going to stop it there. The summary of this is basically ignore this stuff about preservatives and colorings. Maybe take an allergy test, but don't believe this weird preservative thing that they're talking about. The EEG stuff is silly. Maybe do some exercise and be mindful and try some meditation. Go outside and play. Go outside, do exercise, go play sport, and learn more about your ADHD. Those seem to be very effective responses to this sort of flimsy article. So I hope that helped, and I'll see you next time.